Hi, good evening. So this is a video from Zimmer and Peacock regarding Djuli. So if you're looking at Djuli and thinking that's a strange spelling, it's because the team is partly in Norway and this is the Norwegian spelling for Djuli. So at Zimmer and Peacock, we appreciate that scientists, especially laboratory-based scientists, like to go into the lab and they like to gather data. But of course, then they have to process that data and they might even have to report that data. So Djuli is a really good way of being able to store the data. It's being able to retrieve the data, being able to report the data, and being able to analyze the data. So let me give you a bit of a tour of Djuli. The nice thing about Djuli is it's completely online, completely in the cloud. So what I'll do is I'll spring up some data. So effectively what has happened is here I can see that there are, and of course at Zimmer and Peacock we're very focused on electrochemistry, so this is particularly appropriate to electrochemical data. So we have 7 experiments, and just for your interest, we were able to upload the data just using a little button here. So I'll go back into view mode. So we have 7 experiments. Now what Djuli is able to do is you are able to go into the lab and collect your electrochemical data. In this example, it's chronoamperometry, but it could have been potentiometry, it could have been even things like cyclovoltammetry. So it is relevant to electrochemical data. And so, you would go into your lab and you would do your experiments and you would upload the data. So now the data is actually coming up into the cloud, which is a good place to start storing it. You can kind of give the data some date. You can talk about the operator. You can talk about some description. You can talk about if you're actually getting towards manufacturing. You can talk about batch ID. You can talk about the purpose of the experiment. And I will come to this little tab in a second. So what? And I'll actually go to view mode just for a second, just to simplify it as well. So this is the raw data. So Djuli, basically, you upload your raw data, and immediately it's going to give you a kind of 360 view on your data. Because what it's able to do is, for example, here we've got 7 experiments. We can see all those experiments here, and we can see these sort of values as I go along the timeline. And in this experiment, there's been an analyte has been added. So we were sort of doing a baseline, and then an analyte was added, and the signal increased. And so what Djuli is able to do is here, it's able to take the raw data and it's done a baseline correction. So it's basically made everything here before the addition of the analyte was added. It made everything at 0. And so we call that a baseline correction. So it was able to do that automatically. And then what it's able to do is it's able to determine what the linearity is like, what the limit of blank is like, what the limit of detection is like, what the limit of quantification is. So it's able to take the raw data, normalize it maybe to have a single baseline, and then able to determine the linearity. Now, I said I was going to come back and just talk about these 2 gray bars here, because effectively, if we go into here, what I'll do is I'll just show you that, for example, if I make this 100, it's basically going to put the line here. So what it's basically doing here is it's saying here it's 100, it's 0, and at here we were at 10. I'm just going to shift that around a bit more and put it in a more sensible place. I'll put it at 1,000. So now I've put it here. Now what's happened is the experiment has reached a plateau. It was all at baseline, and then they've done the addition of the material, and we're also able to move that line there. So for example, if I just move it just slightly, I'll try 1550. Yeah. And what that's done is basically it's just kind of caught it not on the plateau but just before the plateau, and it's made a real mess of my limit of detection, my limit of quantification, and my R squared. So I'm gonna, because I'm not looking, let's say, at the right part of the data, so I'll just shift that back again. But it's actually quite powerful because normally I'd have to sort of process all these data points, kind of by hand, all this data by hand. But now I can just do it fairly easily, and I can get kind of individual intercepts and slopes, or rather, I can see them. I can see all the different individual intercepts and slopes, and I can also see the mean intercept and the mean slopes. And I can also kind of see that I have a really good standard deviation on 0 because, in fact, we forced everything onto 0 because of that baseline correction. And then I can see that the relative standard deviation was actually 30% when we made that 10. And I might just show you where that 10 came from. So when I went here, we said at index 1, at time 1000, the concentration was 0. At index 2, at 1700, the concentration was, and I might make that 20. And what that's effectively done is it just made the slopes appear greater, because now we're saying it's going from 0 to 20 rather than 0 to 10. So I'll just put it back again. So at the moment I am in edit mode, and I will just go to view mode. So you can just kind of, I think this is very powerful for group supervisors as well, and very powerful for CSOs or CTOs, because they can kind of see how the data in the lab is looking, and because it's so cloud-based, they can do that quite remotely. You can download the raw data, so if you want to put the data into some sort of other package, you can download it. And you can also export a PDF as well. So here it comes now. So here's a quick kind of report. So I think that's really quite neat, because most of the time people can spend a lot of time processing their data, and they can spend a lot of time trying to report their data, and just even just answering the question, where is my data? Where is my data? How can my boss see my data? How can my supervisor see my data? How can my PI see my data? So this is a really neat way of allowing you to upload your data, properly store it and categorize it, properly be able to process lots of data at the same time, and then get statistical results from not just one single experiment, but bring several experiments together and get the kind of statistical view on the entire data set. So I hope that's interesting. If you're interested in starting to use Djuli in your research or your commercial applications, then we're happy to have a conversation. Please contact us at Zimmer & Peacock. Okay, thanks very much.